everything is true. But what it don't get, I can't use. I need money. That's what I want. That's what I want. That's what I want.
We are back with another episode of the MBH podcast, Money Buys Happiness. We are here with our lovely guest, Maria Papadakis.
Hi, guys.
Yeah, a pleasure to have you. It's been a long time coming, so good to have you on here. We needed some more female faces.
We definitely did.
But maybe just give an intro on yourself, and just so the viewers and listeners can kind of get a background on who you are, what you do.
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be on here. And so for those who might not know who I am, people refer to me as the TFC host, the TFC girl all the time. So I'm their digital host and stadium host, and I take care of like all their TV content on that side. But on top of that, I'm also a content producer with MLSE. So I'll create content for Leafs, Raptors, and TFC. And on top of that, I'm also a personal trainer on the side, and I host a bunch of different shows and fitness classes as well. So
And you have a podcast.
And I have a podcast now as well. So yeah, and my own blog that I launched during
There you
quarantine. So yeah, it's been it's a whirlwind of things that I do, but that's
amazing.
kind of me in a nutshell.
Okay, nice. So I mean, I'm gonna kind of get into it right away.
Please,
I mean,
please.
I know a lot of people that would definitely want to take advice from you as to how you got to where you are today, and just the things that you are doing daily that kind of keep that momentum and keep you growing. Like you said, you're doing so many different things. You're clearly not afraid to start something new and kind of go with it, which is great. But in terms of becoming the TFC host and all kind of the education that came with that before, I know you were at Ryerson as well. What was that like, and what made you want to get into that industry and eventually be that person who is now the TFC host?
Yeah, you know what? I originally started thinking about what I wanted to do when I was like in elementary school. I know that sounds very weird.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I was always like in the production world. I was acting, singing, dancing. Like I was very in the arts, but I also was playing rep soccer. So I had like two sides of me that were very prominent in my life. And I remember at the beginning of high school, I wanted to start working behind the scenes because I was always in front of the camera. So I volunteered at Rogers TV, and that's where I got my first ever host position when I was in grade 10, and I was working with people who were in university at the time. So I was hosting a show. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was just like trying, you gotta like just go with it, learn as you work, and that's when I originally knew like I wanted to be on TV. So I was looking at universities, and Ryerson had a sports media program that was opening up, luckily, the year I was graduating high school. So I applied. I made a demo reel like you were supposed to. You had to go in for an interview, and luckily enough, I got in. And the education was great there. It's a 4-year program. They set you up for what you want to do. You can do behind the scenes, marketing, business, in front of the camera, everything that you could possibly imagine in sports, they teach you there.
Nice.
And then I was looking for internships, and obviously soccer is a huge part of my life, and I was looking at TFC and MLSE, and I ended up applying for an internship before my internship year. So the summer going into 4th year, that's when I had applied for the internship with TFC. Instead of them only keep me on for 4 months, they kept me on for the entire MLS Cup season. So I got to live through that as an intern, and then the positions opened up, and my bosses knew what I wanted to do because it just kept showing them what I wanted to do when I was as an intern. And then I had applied, and they gave me the job at 20 years old. So I started with them at 20.
Yeah, I guess like the stars kind of aligned, right? Because
They
the girl who was previous to
Caroline, yeah.
I guess she kind of moved on at that point, and you were just sort of in the perfect position. But at the same time, I mean, you obviously, you took that extra initiative, like you said. You went and applied early. You've already been interning and doing stuff previous to that, right? Which is huge. It's important. You kind of put yourself in, you put yourself in a position to win by already stepping in there, without like any pay or anything like that. You just kind of
there was zero pay. I was getting paid $75 a week to work with
I heard
TFC.
that on one of your podcasts.
Yeah,
I was going to bring that up.
$75 a week. Thank God for my parents, because I was like, I have no money. I have no time to do another job. I was still playing like a in a competitive women's league soccer as well that year, and I was doing that working with TFC2 and TFC. So I was at both training practices, both games, both media relations, because I was working in that department like every time there was an interview. And on top of that, I took on the role to like be like the TFC2 host.
Yeah.
And that's where they originally saw what I wanted to do. Because I'm like, I don't care if nobody watches the content. Let me just do it.
Yeah.
Like, I'll film it, I'll edit it, I'll do whatever. And they ended up allowing me to do it. And that's when they originally saw like what I wanted to do further.
So from that, they kind of saw what you were doing and then put you on the first team kind of host.
Yeah.
Wow. So you took it upon yourself to go in there and say, second
it's
team.
kind of like the Academy of Hosts, you know?
That's amazing. That's dope. It just shows like your work ethic, right? And I think that's something to take from this. But kind of going back on that, you were interning and it was really hard. And I'm sure you had times where you're like, fuck this, right? And you're not getting paid. What kind of helped you get through that without knowing you were even going to get the job? You know, what helped you get through it? What helped you realize, you know what, maybe I can just prove it to these guys in one way. I'm not getting paid. I'm working my ass off. This might not even work out. So what kept you going during that time? Because I think that's a position where people hit and then they're either like, okay, let's do this, or fuck this.
Yeah. I mean, your mentality is huge.
Yeah.
My parents, they always instilled in me, my sisters, that even if you're not getting paid, your experience is going to get you further.
Amazing.
And that's what I just kept repeating in my head, like my experience, the connections, meeting people, being here. This is what's going to get me to the next step. Even if I don't land the job with TFC specifically, I know that having this internship and this experience behind me is going to help me move forward and get a position somewhere else. So that was something that I just kept, repeating in my mind over and over and over again. There were weekends I was exhausted. Yeah,
sure.
But I just kept saying, you know what? I love this. I love the sport. I love this team, because I was a fan before I even started working there. So being able to be there, and see all these players in real life, that was another thing that was just like so incredible to me. But I was also very fortunate to have amazing bosses. They were great guys. They took me in like one of their own, and that just really helped me going forward.
So you were just trying to kind of build that resume up and use each point to get you forward.
Yeah.
Now you finally had that job. You got that job, which is a crazy position to get. I'm sure people dream of it.
Yeah.
And now you're using that as momentum to kind of build other stuff for yourself, right? So talk about maybe the content that you started doing for the MLSE and how that came about. Yeah.
So when I first joined MLSE, I was strictly just a host. Okay. And then because I had producer background through the stuff I was doing in university, I ended up going to one of my executive producers and I was like, hey, like if there's any positions open, I want to start creating content. So I just put myself out there. Obviously I was doing like the tiniest of projects at first. Yeah. And then they started to see the amount of experience that I was getting with doing the smaller projects. And I remember when the Raptors were in the playoffs, they had given me like a massive project to work on for their playoff run. And I remember I was the only producer on that one. I had my executive producer watching over me, and that was when like I was like, okay, like I have to take the reins on this. And that pushed me forward to being able to get so many more projects now. Yeah. So that was kind of just like how I went about that. And then because I love doing both sides of everything, that's when I originally was like, you know what, there's a different side of me that nobody knows. Yeah. So I'm going to create a blog and create all these different things so that people not only refer to me and know me as a TFC girl, but they know me as Maria Papadakis and what else I can do.
No, and what's cool is that MLSE and TFC, they're cool with you kind of creating content on the side, like doing your own stuff, right? Which obviously like maybe some people wouldn't expect them being okay with that, right? But what I like is you did the podcast. I think that's huge, right? Maybe just more of an insight to like your life, and obviously M as well, right? Maybe talk a bit about that, how that came to life, why it came to life, and sort of the journey there and the process there, because I know you guys are pretty early into it.
Yeah,
we're only on.
Thank you.
Crazy
yeah, seriously.
Thank you. It's definitely a lot of work, you know. But I remember M and I were having a conversation. For those who don't know, M's one of like my close friends. We went to university together.
Shout out M.
Shout out M. And we were talking one day, and I'm like, like people know me for one thing really, but like I want to be known for so many more things. Yep. And she's like, yeah, like that's great. And you were talking about like how many stories we have, like just us two through university, and now just because we're always doing some fun things. And she goes, imagine if we could tell these stories. And I'm like, why can't we? Yeah. So we ended up coming up with like, let's just create a podcast, and we ended up doing it. And it's basically just an insight to our lives, but also being two relatable girls in their 20s for other girls to be able to listen to and relate to their stories. Because if I think about it, there's podcasts out there that I can listen to, but no one's really relatable that I can be like, oh my God, that happened to me too. Yeah. How do I go about this? There's so many things that everyone goes through every day. And I'm like, I want to be that person for so many other girls and people in general.
So what has that done for you? I guess you and Em, but you obviously, in terms of like people reaching out to you. What's the feedback been like? Like, have people actually come back and been like, hey, like I feel really connected to you? Or
we've had incredible feedback. So many people have come back to us saying, you guys are probably the two most relatable people I've ever listened to.
That's amazing.
And it's just crazy to think that you're like, oh wow, like you actually think that what I'm saying is like normal. Like it's just, it's funny. And I remember I said a funny thing that I did about a restaurant. Like
I saw that someone kind of gave you
someone did exactly what I did, and it worked. I almost fell off my chair yesterday when I read that comment. So like, I can't believe people are doing now what I'm doing, what I'm saying, and it kind of makes you feel like really good.
That's the kind of stuff that like money can't buy. Like
I'll
say that on this podcast.
Wrong place to say it, but
I like that you said you want people to know Maria. You don't want to just be known as the TFC host. Or you don't want to tie yourself down to a certain kind of service or industry or just a company maybe, right? And that's something we push all the time. Me personally, I'm always pushing everyone to kind of give value in yourself, right? Once you tie yourself down to something as just a TFC host, you no longer have the value in yourself, right? So I love that you did that. You kind of just said, you know what, I'm Maria. The value is Maria here, and I want people to know more about Maria. That's something that we do all the time as well. And I kind of want to get your touch on that as to why you wanted to focus on Maria, because a lot of people know it's important, personal brand, right? And we push that all the time.
Yeah.
But I want to hear from you, right? I want to know what made you say, you know what? I don't want to just be known as Toronto FC host or just this podcast or just this. I want to just be Maria, and I want everyone to know that. What clicked for you when that happened? Because that's a huge moment, and it's a tough thing for people to accept nowadays, right? They usually just want to tie themselves. No, I'm just a photographer, or no, I'm just this person.
Or I work for this company or that brand.
In our generation, I feel like you have to be a person that's multi-talented and giving value to people in many ways, right? And like you just said, people have been giving you feedback because you're giving them value, right? So I guess what position you're putting yourself in is just to kind of give all the values Maria has to everyone, right? But what made you want to do that?
I think opportunity, because you giving yourself so many different outlets, you'll never run out of opportunities and out of things that you can do. Of course. And I think what really clicked was when, I do get recognized out in public a lot. And people be like, oh my God, Maria from TFC. Yeah. I'm like, but I'm also just Maria. Yeah. And as much as I love it, because I don't want to sound like I don't like being Maria from TFC. I love that. That's who I will probably always be. You know what I mean? But it's just, I thought that, you know what I mean, going forward, I didn't want to have one label. I wanted to be from Maria from Toronto. Yeah. Maria who does all A, B, C, and D. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Maria who can do all these different things. Yeah.
Because more than just a host.
More than just hosting.
Or more than just a soccer player.
Exactly. And like, I was out with one of my friends last night, and she's like, it's crazy the amount of knowledge you actually have in your head, because I can edit, I can produce, I can train, I can host, and I've never just limited myself to one thing. And that's why I said opportunity gets you so much further, and you want to become successful. All of us want to be the most successful people out there, and I think the drive and the opportunity coming after not limiting yourself to something is what drove me forward.
And I'm curious now, that bouncing back to the fact that you are doing all these things, which are all super time consuming, I can imagine. How do you, what do you do to set yourself up for success in everything? Because obviously you're running a podcast, you're creating the content, you're editing, you're posting. Then obviously, TFC, I can only imagine how many times it's like, hey, come here, go there, run there, shoot that, whatever. And then it's like, hey, I'm running training classes every Saturday, Sunday, like blog. Like, what do you do to set yourself up for success in all of those things? Because it's not like you're just doing one job, right?
Yeah, it's time management. It's literally time management. My calendar and my agenda is like my best friend, and people usually use their phones. I actually like a written agenda. Like I'm old school. I don't know why I have to visualize it. So at the beginning of every week, I always say Sundays are the beginning of my week, because Sundays prep me for the rest. You know what I mean? Sundays are most people's down days. So that's why. So Sunday, I'll usually look at my calendar and say, okay, this is what I have going on this week. Usually my workout schedule from how much people I train per week is usually like pretty set in stone. So I usually work around that. Now, because TFC and sports are very unpredictable, things can change in an instant. You have to kind of instill for yourself that you need to be able to adjust on the fly. So sleep, you probably won't get a lot of it. Some weeks. Can't plan that out. Being at home, can't plan that out. Hanging out with friends, can't plan that out. There's a lot of times where I'll commit to something and I'll have to call them and say, hey guys, I can't come. Especially when like I'm in the high season of like soccer and everything else going on.
I've invited you out a bunch of times.
And I'm like, we got playoffs, brother. There's no way. And you know what? It's definitely a challenge. I'm not going to lie. At first, I felt like I was like losing my mind because I'm like, how am I managing all these things? But now it's just working on the fly, taking any time you can to get yourself ahead. So for example, like I know that we'll record the podcast. I know that night I'm going to go home and record and edit that podcast and make sure that I get it out, get it to Em early so that she can listen to it one more time and then she can post it because she controls our social side.
Cool.
And then with TFC and all the other stuff, I have like sometimes I have to take a step back from like my blog. I've had to take a little bit of a step back because I can't overdo myself either.
Sure.
But it's time management. It's literally what it is, learning to work on the fly. Yeah.
What I like is you said like Sunday is usually people's down date, and that's like your day to set yourself up.
Oh,
right?
I know.
And we always talk about all the time, like probably see it on both of our stories, like long weekends. We're here on the Monday. Anna as well. We're here working, right? So we always kind of take those opportunities where people are relaxing. Like that's our time to get ahead.
Yeah, I love that dedication.
Yeah, which is it's huge, right? It's huge, and exactly the whole time management thing I think is huge. Our calendars are fucking, our calendars are crazy. But no, it's huge. It's huge, and I think it's just so important. And obviously the drive and obviously the passion behind all of it is kind of just what motivates it to keep going, right?
I feel like with that stuff, you're kind of learning on the go too, like the best ways to organize yourself and prepare yourself. Like the stuff you're doing today is not what you were doing last year.
No,
it's different, right? And it's always going to change, but as long as you're always focusing on ways to make it better, make your days better and get the most value from it, I think you're putting yourself in a good position. You're going to learn. Everyone has their own ways.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone has their own ways. I wake up, I meditate. He wakes up, he starts reading right off the bat. Like or just looking at articles.
I wake up, get a coffee. That's
the
first thing I got to do every morning.
Espresso first.
I think everyone has their own way. And what we try to do here is just show everyone's ways of doing it so that people can realize that, right? But touching on your personal brand, I think that you've done a really good job in showing your personal brand.
Thank you.
Constantly. That's not easy to do, right? I think you made it clear you have a lot of values that you want to show people, right? You have the podcast, you have the fitness side of things, you have the blog, obviously the TFC host. You have all these values. Now the hard part is showing people the values. Now this is content, right? And you're on it. You're on it just as much as anyone that I look at in the top kind of percentiles of who's pumping out the most content and the most valuable content. So how do you do that? Because we do it ourselves and we know it's really hard, but we love to hear from other people as to how they're doing it because it's crazy, right? Like you have your podcast going on, you have graphics for that, you have quotes, you have guests coming on, you have teasers, then you have your fitness, and then you have TFC stuff. Like there's content all around, right? And what we like to say here is that it's if you do something and you don't show it, it's almost like you didn't do it.
Valid point.
Right?
I like that.
No one knows.
So you have all these values now. You're saying you know how to edit, you know how to train people, you know the sports world, but now how are you portraying this value to everyone? How are they getting it?
Well, are you creating, like for example, just the podcast we use as an example? Are you creating the content for that?
Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy.
It's just Em and I.
Yeah.
And no one else. I do all the editing.
Wow.
I create all the teasers and everything. I do that all on my computer.
Unreal.
And then she manages our social.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And, right, I'm just like,
I wish I did. Yeah.
That's crazy though, right? Like I would tell people that if I was you, I'd be like, you know what, guys, I do all the editing here, right? Because they'd be shocked. Because what people see from just online, I don't think now because you've done a really good job, but maybe at the beginning they were just like, oh, but she's just a TFC host, right? Yeah. But then you had to kind of get braver and get out there and say, you know what? No, I know how to do fitness. I can write a blog or I could do a podcast, right? But you had to go and do it. Yeah. So I think where I'm trying to get at here is the content side of it is huge because if you're not showing it, like I said, it's almost like you're not doing it. So how do you stay on top of it? Because you have a bunch of content probably coming in from all angles. And then you're creating a bunch of your own content. So how do you stay on top of that? Because a lot of people will look at content and just be like, oh, it's fucking hard work, man. Like I'm not trying to do that. So how do you do it?
I'm not going to lie. In my first year as a host, I was terrible online. Yeah. I was actually like never an Instagram person until I actually really started becoming a host. I know. And everyone's like, it's funny because like my friends will make fun of me now. They're like, you've completely done like a complete turnaround of like who you were. And not that I've changed, but I was never posting pictures. I'd post like one every 3 weeks. Yeah. And it was like never on my stories, like nothing. So then I was like, all right, people want to see what I'm doing because I'm in this role. So I got to start putting up more things. Yeah. And at first, like finding the balance is really hard because, you know, you want to post things like your other friends are posting, but at the same time, you're like, if I post too much, that it just looks like I'm always having a good time with my friends and I'm not who I actually am, you know? So to sum up, it was just more like I want to show like my fun side, my work side, my fitness side and everything else. So like I always kind of manage the way I look at it on my feed is like I have one here. about fitness, I'm going to post something about, my personal life here, or something else on my blog and just other stuff that I've written. Or then with TFC, I kind of try to manage it of what's going on in my life currently. Yeah, there's always so many different things going on, but I find what's the most current, what's the most present, that's what I'm going to show right now. So that's kind of the way I manage it. I know that might be a little weird,
makes sense.
But I don't like planning things out too much because things always change. And when you're over posting, sometimes people also get a little bit too annoyed, I find. And I kind of try to find the happy medium between there. But yeah, so I just kind of go with what's current, what I want to post. And sometimes if I don't want to post it, I just won't.
Yeah. What I want to talk about actually is, I guess more of like your influencer side.
Yeah.
So we hosted the Mustache Cup last year for November, and you came out and did that obviously out of the goodness of your heart. Obviously it was for charity and whatnot. We're hosting the runs every week, Neighborhood Run Club. You came out for the first one as our guest runner, and now have continually showed love and
I'm
been
running
every
this week
single
though,
day.
guys.
The
knee's okay.
The knee brace going.
The knee brace is coming out.
But I want to talk about that because obviously all that stuff you're doing free of charge and just kind of obviously trying to help out, whether it's local soccer things or whatever, just trying to kind of be there. Why do you come out and do it for free? What does it do for you, and where do you see the positives in that?
I'm a big person of my community and the people who surround me.
Cool.
And if you're giving me an opportunity to show my outlet if you're giving me an outlet to be who I am with you guys, why would I charge you for it? I'm no celebrity, I'm no Kardashian. I'm not like that. And even then, even if I became that big, I still wouldn't do it because you know what I mean? You're here to be with the community. The community is what makes you who you are. Yeah. So I'm not going to sit here and ask you for money when it's just here for a good cause and here to be with the people who surround you. Yeah. So I've just always looked at it like that. I've never been one to take. I give. Well, it's literally the opposite.
The reason I ask is because obviously, we're in marketing and what we do, we're always doing influencer campaigns or whatever, right? And there's a lot of the times where we're just yeah, whatever, come out, do this, be a part of that. We'd love to have you there. And it's just yeah, sure, 10 grand. Yeah, sure, 4,500, whatever. And I think it's important, obviously, especially you're a content creator as well as an influencer. We always say how about free work goes a long way, right? Especially if you're able to show off your brand. It's actually even a bonus for you too, right? To put yourself in a scenario where you're able to expose yourself to maybe some people that maybe don't know who you are, or I've only seen you on the big screen at BMO Field,
exactly,
right? And kind of put a personality and a face to the person they see on TV.
Which you match really well, by the way. Your online persona matches so much when you get to sit down with you. And
yes,
talk. It matches perfectly.
I never change who I am.
Yeah.
I literally, and people have always said that. Even when I first started, you're the exact same person on camera that you are off camera. And I'm like, why would I change that?
Yeah.
Why would I act like a different person because I'm in front of a camera? I'm me. I'm a goof. I'm someone who makes people laugh. I don't ever stop talking, and that's just who I am.
You're showing the real you.
This is the real me.
That's why people respect that a lot more, right? A lot of people struggle because they're trying to fake something online and try to be something they're not, right?
Well, we had this conversation.
Just because that's what they think people will like to see, right? Yeah. People actually just want to see something real, right?
Yeah. People never want you to compare yourself to someone else.
Exactly.
And that's the one thing I was told going into this industry. I have a lot of women I look up to in the sports industry, women hosts that I'm I've always wanted to be that person. Yeah. And going into it, they're we don't need two of them. Yeah. We need someone else. Be your own person. And that was engraved in my mind from the moment I started. I'm I'm going to be who I am. Yeah. And that's why I've never changed who I was. And going back to what you said, you can't be greedy at the beginning either. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can't be asking for 10 grand when you're even in the position for 2-3 years, because at the end of the day, you got to grow your presence, and that's not going to grow overnight.
It's all relationships, right? You're trying to build relationships along the way.
But it's so important. Going back to what he was saying, that exactly the content you put out, meet you in person, it's the exact same. I think that's the most important part. We
try to preach that all the time. People are always struggling, I don't know what to post, and just post something that is genuine from you.
To who you are.
Once you start trying to just please other people and that sort of thing, then you're going to be unhappy because you're just trying to be something you're not.
Yeah, exactly.
And that person one day will actually finally meet you and be like, same person here? Right?
Who are you? Who are you?
Who is this?
So I think staying genuine to your true self and showing people that real side of you, your true colors. I think that's where people get a lot of trust from you, right? And they're like, you know what? She's being real with me. I'm listening to her podcast. She's telling me stories that I would have never imagined her telling me. but she's being real with me. She's getting out of her comfort zone and trying to give me value in some sort of way for free.
Yeah.
So I look at that and I'm like, wow, I trust you in a certain way now, because you're not doing what everyone else is doing online, just trying to sell people on shit. You actually just give me value because I'm following you.
Yeah, and even the same thing, my blog. Like, I write a lot of stuff on there that's like, I was always looking for information. You know, like I write a lot of stuff on like, you know, beauty and health and fitness. And it's just like, because I struggled with all of that like in the past year, 2 years. And you're always looking for more information about like what other women are going through. So that's why I wanted to give that outlet, because you're not the only one going through certain things or trying to look for certain information or trying to find out more things about products. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to give a platform for everybody to come and just be able to relate and understand and learn.
This is what I'm using.
Yeah, exactly.
How I do
mistakes. You talk about mistakes. You talk about bad experiences too. It's okay. Like, those are things that happen in your life. Going back to it, you said being your true self was like a huge eye opener for you, because there could be another host that provides the same service as you are, but the only difference is yourself. Right? Yeah. Just like your value, your experience, your life, right? So we try to preach that all the time. Everyone, that's why we don't really believe in competition, because no one's exactly you. They might be selling the same service. They might be talking about the same thing on the mic, but deep down, you're a completely different person. And I think the way you succeed with that is just by showing everyone that true person that you are.
Can always better yourself.
That's when people just kind of start differentiating you and saying, you know what? No, she's more than just this host. Right? Or she does more than just speak in public, whatever it may be, right? I think it just comes down to actually showing people what you're doing, and you've done a great job of doing that.
What I'm curious about is, because we always talk about the positive things on this podcast, just like, hey, this is going great. How do you do that? But in your position, everything from the host, content creation, the podcast, the training, everything, where do you see difficulty? Where are maybe the negatives to it? Because I feel like that's something that we also always preach, is like, it's okay also to talk about the L's. Like, it's okay to also show people and talk about the times that things maybe didn't go the best, or, you know, the shitty side to being in a certain industry, or the shitty side to being a certain person and that does this or does that. So I don't know, I'm just curious if. Yeah,
trust me, I've had a lot of L's. You know what I mean? But I guess the one thing I'd say is being a woman in the sports industry, it's not easy. Yeah. You know, coming into it at such a young age, I was 20 years old. Crazy. Like just 20. Yeah. And I, obviously being young, replacing someone that, you know, was in their first year as well the year before, but they established that role of being the TFC host. I came in there and everybody already had like an opinion about me when they kind of shouldn't have. And, you know, they were like, oh, you know, she's a young blonde, doesn't know what she's talking about. She probably never played soccer a day in her life. And it's like, okay. So this is why you all think about me. All right. So being a woman in the sports industry, you always got to prove yourself. And I obviously took pride in proving everybody wrong. And I was like, all right, this is what I'm going to do, and to show you all that what you have an opinion about me is wrong. What opinion you have about me is wrong. And that was like one of the biggest difficult things going forward. Other than that, it's, you know, sometimes you're not going to produce great content, or sometimes you're going to have a bad day on a shoot. You say a wrong thing, or you ask a question a weird way. You don't get the answer you needed in that one moment. You're going to have those days. You got to shake it off. You just got to walk forward and be like, okay, I had a shitty day. Tomorrow's going to be another one. We're going to keep it moving. But those are like the biggest things, I guess, like, in being in an online presence, everyone's going to have an opinion about you. Everyone's going to say, like, obviously being a female, where body image is a huge thing. Everyone's going to have an opinion about what you look like, what you wear, how you dress, how you act. Everyone's going to have an opinion about it. So that's kind of another thing that I had to get myself in check with. Like, you can't listen to what everybody else thinks. And don't read comments. Never read comments on anything. Just don't. So that was something that I had to get myself used to. But you do it.
Yeah, and I can imagine, actually, just like obviously with live sports, like how many times it's like, we need to capture this in the moment, but it's live, so make it happen.
Has there been like any big like fuck ups or mistakes on like live to air, anything like that?
Oh, so there's two that always come off my mind, and like I didn't even do it intentionally. There was one day I was at both at BMO Field, because that's live. You're going. There's no stopping, right? Crazy. So there was one day I had like a tickle in my throat. and my eyes started to water, and I'm trying to do the 3 keys to the game, and that's like in a minute and a half. Like I wrote those, like you gotta go.
You gotta fly through this.
I literally cut the end, like, okay, like see you soon. Like I literally don't even know what I said. I was
one
like,
key to the game. We got one key to the game.
I literally finished. I finished the 3 keys, but the 3rd key I basically cut in half, and I was like, okay, we'll see you in half.
And crying.
Literally, like I get off camera, I'm like coughing a lung up. My producer's like, what the hell? Yeah. I'm like, I'm sorry, like I can't. He's like, obviously he's a little frustrated because like, what, really?
What
and I'm like, I couldn't control anything. Then there was another time a bug flew on my face. Okay.
Oh God.
And it's like it's chilling.
Just chilling, right?
It's chilling on the cheek.
Come on.
And I'm like
You're trying to like get it off?
I'm trying to like swat it away, and I have my mic in my one hand, and like the camera guy starts laughing.
Yeah.
So now I'm laughing on camera, trying to do the 3 keys again. Everything here, the 3 keys just goes wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I obviously like was trying not to laugh so that nobody else is laughing, but then I heard like people in the audience laughing.
Yeah, because he noticed.
Because my face is large on the screen.
Yeah, of course.
Oh God, I had to finish it, but that was like, I was like, oh, I just ruined this segment so bad. But other than that, like, you gotta go with it.
Yeah, you rolled the punches. Yeah.
Came upstairs, got tripped by all the guys with a bug on my face. It was just, it's a good time. Good time.
The first time you went out there, were you nervous at all?
No. The second time I was. Wow. Weird, I know.
Interesting.
The first time, I guess I had so much adrenaline pumping through my system that I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this.
Yeah.
The second time when it finally hit me.
As to what you were doing.
As to what was going on around me, I was like, oh shit, there's 30,000 people staring at me right now. And if I mess up, everybody knows.
Yeah.
So that was like the first time I got really nervous.
How many years have you been there with TFC?
This would be my 4th year.
Wow. Shit, eh?
I feel like you're very comfortable now with that stuff.
Yeah.
Like we came and checked you out at a game once, and you were just chilling, walking around, talking to people. You seemed very comfortable, very casual about it.
I love it there.
Which is crazy because like if you put me over there, I would be luck. If I seen a fly on me, I'm just gonna start running away, right? So it's impressive, and I think that. Like for me, I'd never seen you nervous. That's why I asked you. Yeah, I've never seen you like nervous. Maybe you just keep it inside.
I can control it. Like I'm not kidding you. There's times my heart, it feels like it's about to fall out of my chest, and I'm like, okay, like I just gotta like zone in and do it. And there's been times where like I know that I've had a really busy day. That's not English. I've had a really busy day the day before a game, and I'm like, I didn't get the amount of time that I wanted to learn my script the way I get it. And I only get the script 24 hours before, sometimes less.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. And I don't actually have 24 hours to learn it. I maybe have like 8 out of like the amount of, by the time I sleep, wake up, get to the stadium, do all the other things I got to do in a day. So yeah, like there's been times I've just felt nervous going into certain things, being like, I don't know if I'm fully prepared, but you got to go with it. No one's actually going to know if you mess up, though. Of course. That's the one thing I got to say. No one has no idea.
Yeah.
It's not like everyone has a script in their hands.
Exactly.
And like,
everyone's reading, she missed the word. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no.
What I want to know is, and I think this would be good for any girls that are listening to this, what advice would you give to any female wanting to either get into the sports industry or any female just wanting to, you know, create content and kind of go down that path?
And get out there, you know, get over that comfort level. Like you said it yourself, you don't worry about, I'm going to have to not worry about what half these people think right now when I go post this, right? And I think that's a hard kind of step for a lot of people to take because of all the insecurities and stuff that's going on online. What advice can you give to kind of break through that roadblock and kind of just keep going and not worry about what everyone's thinking?
Yeah, there's a few things like that help me that I would say, especially in the sports industry in particular. Know your shit. Yeah. That's the one thing you got to do. Like that's you just got to know your stuff. Because if you don't, people won't know right away. You can't fake it till you make it in sports. It's all stats based. So you got to know what you got to know, right? So that's the one thing is be confident, know your stuff, and move forward and be able to be confident in your own shoes. Yeah. Another thing I'd say, never be afraid to post something. Reason being, not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone's going to agree with what you have to say. But even though there's one person on the one side that doesn't like you, there's probably 100 on the other side who love you.
Beautiful.
So that's the one thing you got to look at. Like, not everyone's going to like me, but I already know that I'm here for those people who want to see my stuff. Of course. Who like me as for who I am.
Build that
and
whole
build
that.
People, and then eventually the person who might hate you might come on the other side. Like, I like this person now. You know what I mean? So that's one thing I'd have to say. And the other one is don't let anybody bring you down. There's gonna be bad comments out there. There's gonna be bad things people say about you, or say, you're being too much. You're being an Instagram, you know, attention seeker. You're doing all that stuff, and it's like, people are always going to say that because there are jealous people out there.
Sure.
People are always going to want to bring you down.
They don't want to see you really do well.
They don't want to see you succeed. You know what I mean? They don't want to see you win. I sound like DJ Khaled.
I know. I just felt like that. Like, oh fuck! I just sound like they don't want to see you win. They don't want to see you win.
No, but it's true. He's right. As whack as you might sound, he's true. They might not want to see you like succeed. So you just got to be able to put those aside and move forward. And there's never enough content. There's never enough content.
And I'm just curious, the podcast, it's literally fine. Where'd that name come from?
Okay.
I think you guys explain it, but on the podcast, but maybe let our viewers.
Okay, so it's literally fine. So if I'm having a shitty day or something happens and it's like another thing added on to another, I'm like, it's literally fine. And Em and I say that to each other about everything. Yeah. So you were going through a bunch of names and talking about like all these different things, and I'm like, I'm trying to think of like what we talk about and like what we say. I'm like, because that would be the great titles. It comes from us. It's who we are. Yeah. And she was like, dude, what about it's literally fine? And I'm like, oh my God. We say that literally every 5 minutes. I'm like, so let's do it. Let's make it.
You guys actually say it on the like
all the time. And it's not intentional.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Not intentional.
I heard one of your conversations and you said it. I'm like, she just threw it out there. She was just saying it. It's literally fine.
What Em does now is she'll hashtag in her text messages. I'm like, all right, Em.
Build the brand. Build the brand.
So that's where the title came from, and like that's another thing I'd say. Even if you're trying to get yourself out there, it's fine. You don't like something, you can always delete it or move on. Like it's
and that fits your podcast so well. I think going back to it, it was just around you guys telling your stories and trying to relate to others, right? Exactly. Which is huge. What do you guys have planned for the podcast? Is there anything coming up? What are your goals for it? Kind of guests too. Like what's your whole plan with it? Who do you plan to bring on? Like what kind of...
So when you were originally planning the podcast, we weren't exactly sure if we wanted to have a lot of guests on, and like we call it the first season. Yeah. So our seasons are going to go between 15 to 20 episodes. Nice. And we're going to take a few weeks off and then start back with like another season 2. The reason why we're doing that is because you want everybody to have like their own little chance to like catch up, get familiar with it, and then come back when there's more stuff. And the anticipation always gets people curious about coming back too, right? Yeah. So in the first season that we're in right now, we were thinking maybe it's just going to be us getting those 15 to 20 episodes where everybody can just learn who we are. Luckily enough, Josh Eady from the Kissing Booth really wanted to come on, and he was like, hey, I love your podcast. Like, let's talk. And
I wanted to actually find out how that came to be. Because he's huge. Like,
he's awesome.
400,000 followers, like on like one of the most popular shows on Netflix. Like, how'd that come to be?
So Em actually met him when he was in Toronto because he's from South Africa.
Wow. Dope. Yeah, you can tell by his accent.
Yeah, his awesome accent. I was like, can I have your accent? Like, I love this. So he met her when they were in Toronto, and Em actually showed him around with his girlfriend and his friends while they were here. And it was really awesome. Like, they had a really great bond, and they kept in touch when he went back. And then he ended up following me as well because he saw that we were friends, we had the podcast, and then we all got to talking together, and he's like, let's do a collaboration. And he has his own podcast as well. Oh, dope. So we kind of merged them together and just did an interview where it wasn't even an interview. Yeah. It was us talking about the most random things, about his life, our life, and having someone at like that level of like presence online and presence in people, being so down to earth was probably one of the coolest things ever.
Yeah.
And then, so that was like our only guest for the first season. And then next season, we're already talking about it. We're going to bring on a bunch of people, trying to get like, people within Toronto, outside of Toronto, people who are just like us, guys and girls. Yeah. So we want to be able to make it even more relatable coming the next seasons. Yeah.
And what's next for you? Is there anything coming up? Anything that we should be expecting? What are the next steps for Maria?
I always love this question because I'm like, can you tell me? I don't know. Honestly, right now it's kind of just focusing on like TFC season because everything's obviously a different world right now. Yeah. Because of everything that's been happening, I've just kind of been taking everything as it comes. I've obviously been looking for so many more opportunities, different influencer stuff that I've been looking at, different things coming down the pipelines that you guys all see on social, so follow me. But yeah, just working at Peace Collective just launched a new line as well, so we're going to be promoting that as well with the Raptors and all that, so we're doing that kind of stuff as well.
Dope. Maybe just let everyone know where they can find you, your podcast, what are all the ats.
Yeah, so if you go on my Instagram, it's Maria Papadakis. You actually have to add an extra S on on my last name
The
because there's
kiss,
another
the
Maria
kiss.
Papadakis out there, not related to her. She also went to my university, oddly enough.
Come on.
Yeah. I used to
Wow.
go to like the cage. We call it the cage, where you like take out equipment for like school.
Yeah.
And every time I'd go there, they'd be like, "You can't, like, you're in sociology." I'm like, "No, I'm not. Like, it's just me. Like, look at my card."
That's
Because she went to, and I know her. I know her brother too.
Wow.
We're all related. Just
Wow.
we're all Greeks. So at Maria Papadakis with 2 S's. My website is literally mariapapadakis.ca. It's Literally Fine. That's the podcast,
Hey.
and everything else is on my Instagram. You'll see all my tags there. So that's where you can find me.
Dope.
Money buys happiness, though.
Hey.
You gotta
does.
tell.
Oh
us.
yeah. No,
gotta
before
tell
we
us.
end it, we always ask our guests, or we try to. Sometimes we forget, but we tell that money buys happiness for a few different reasons. But what do you think of the name? What comes to mind when you hear that?
Like, if money buys happiness, or what I think of the name?
No, just
The,
on that
the
statement.
money buys happiness.
Yeah.
What comes to your mind? You can be honest. You can be brutally honest as well.
I've never been a person to think money actually buys happiness. I think money can create happiness, but I think your true happiness comes from who's around you and what you create of your life.
Okay.
Money adds to happiness.
Yeah.
That's what I find. But
Yeah.
if you need money to buy you happiness, then I think you have some checking to do on other things.
Okay, well, we're changing the name of the podcast.
We gotta change
This
the
is- this is actually.
Dude, we're screwed. How many episodes deep? And then we lost the name.
We're like 14 deep, and we're
someone
changing the name
someone
now.
already just checked us, man. We're done.
On that note, listen, it was a
God.
pleasure. It was a pleasure.
We're gonna
having
get you back, though. We'll get you back
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah, well, we'll probably get you back closer to the end of the season. We'll have some more TFC and hopefully some more stuff that you're doing to talk about. But pleasure having you. Honestly,
doing
super
your
insightful. Yeah, seriously, keep killing it. You're absolutely killing it online, in person. Love that you're the same person. I think a lot of people would love to sit down and meet you. Maybe we got to get you on some fucking conference or something.
TED Talk coming at you.
TED Talk's coming soon. But yeah, appreciate you having you.
Thank you so much
unreal.
for having me,
course,
guys. It was a
always.
huge pleasure. Thank you.
Money don't get everything is true, but what it don't get, I